Kia ora! Here in Aotearoa, we do a lot of dairy farming. So what's up with cows and climate change? Well, cows are different to other animals as they produce a lot of methane. And methane is a toxic climate-changing gas that's 84 times more potent than CO2. A single cow produces more methane than 7 sheep, 60 pigs, or 800 humans. These four-legged methane factories churn out a whopping 100 kilograms every year. A single cow produces the equivalent CO2 as driving a regular petrol car about 40 kilometres a day, or 15,500 kilometres a year. So the average farm produces about 19,000 kilometres worth per day, or 6.9 million per year. And instead of working on reducing emissions, the industry has spent the last 30 years breeding more cows. There are now more dairy cows than people, around 6 million. Collectively clocking up more than 97 billion kilometres worth of emissions every year. On top of this, the sector has been cutting down forests for more farms, importing tons of synthetic fertiliser to grow the grass faster, importing shiploads of cow food because there's not enough grass for all the cows, and burning mountains of coal and gas to dry out the milk for export. And when you add in the beef cows and all the sheep, it becomes clear why agriculture makes up nearly 50% of the country's greenhouse gas emissions. In 2008, the emissions trading scheme was introduced to tackle our out-of-control emissions. But our politicians have caved in to industry pressure ever since. And today, nearly 15 years later, agriculture, our biggest polluter, is still excluded from the ETS. And the goalposts keep moving. The current plan brings them into the ETS in 2025 with a 95% subsidy, meaning the industry pays 5% while the public pays the balance. But the industry is even fighting this tiny measure. So they've got together with politicians to set up He Waka Eke Noa to derail efforts to bring them into the ETS. This scheme is projected to reduce emissions by less than 1% by 2030 and will take more than a century to reach carbon zero. And most of the funds collected are funneled back to the industry, so the public and the environment will continue to pay for their emissions. And this is on top of all the other subsidies keeping the industry afloat. In all, dairy collects more in benefits than it pays in tax. All of this dodgy accounting and polluting privilege keeps us locked in to obsolete farming systems and shuts out the innovation we desperately need. All this methane forms a super insulator, trapping heat. But there is a silver lining. Unlike CO2, which lasts for centuries, methane has a lifetime of around 12 years. So if we dramatically cut herd numbers here and globally, that would make a real difference in terms of warming in a relatively short time. This could give us the reprieve we need to avoid the worst effects of climate change by giving us time to tackle the urgent issues with CO2. To turn this around is simple. We need to stop subsidising polluters, drastically reduce stock numbers, and bring agriculture into the ETS with no dirty discounts.